You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borg. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Monday, 28th day of July, 2025. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. The first broadcast is our live training room. So to get in there, you have to be one of our traders or taking our 1-week free trial. If you have not yet taken the 1-week free trial, when Michael joins us at the top of the hour, he'll walk you through it step by step, a couple times. We'll get your indicators up and indicating today. Your trial will officially start tomorrow morning, and you'll have access all the way through next Monday. 5 consecutive trading days. The weekend does not count against you. And when you take the trial, you're not just getting access to the live training room. We actually treat you like you were already a full-fledged member for 5 trading days, so that at the end of the trial, you can make a well-informed, intelligent decision as to whether or not trading is right for you. Now, there's 2 different ways to join this afternoon broadcast, which is open to the public, unlike the morning broadcast. This broadcast is open to anyone on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways to join this broadcast live. The best way, you only have to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com, scroll down to where it says Noon Broadcast. Click the link, fill out the 30-second registration form, and you're done. What will happen going forward is every trading day you'll get an email about an hour before this broadcast starts. In the email, there's a link, so at 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is just click the link in the email, and it'll automatically log you into our platform. The benefit there is you'll have access to the question box right away, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there'll be days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, but you still want to join live. And some days you'll be busy. You can't join live, but you want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. The Christian Financial Radio Network since 2005. It's our 20th year anniversary. You don't have to remember all that. Just youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there's over 2,800 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. And I said I was going to check and see if we had hit 2,900 yet. No, not quite, but we're getting close. Okay. Now, over 2,800 individual daily broadcasts archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. Obviously, you're not going to watch them all if you're new, but it's a great resource to have at your fingertips. You can scroll back 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, even more. And thanks to the power of YouTube, you can actually see how we've evolved over the years, from where we began to where we are now. youtube.com/CFRN. And while you're there, be sure to click the subscribe button and tick that little bell. That way, anytime we go live outside of our normal broadcast hours, you'll be notified. And it helps more people find our channel. This is the schedule for each afternoon broadcast. Michael will join us top of the hour, give us a recap of what happened this morning in the live training room, then do some live trading on the TradingView platform for about 30 minutes. But we'll dive right into our daily devotional, which is where we start each and every day. The topic we're on is the solitude practice. Now, solitude has a bit of a different meaning than what you might think. So we're in day 3 of 4 on this particular devotional. So if you go back 2 days at youtube.com/CFRN, you can get the definition of solitude as it applies to this devotional. Our scripture today is Matthew 4, verses 1 through 11. And I'm going to share it with you from the Message translation. Next, Jesus was taken into the wild by the Spirit for the test. The devil was ready to give it. Jesus prepared for the test by fasting 40 days and 40 nights. Now, if that seems impossible to you, I assure you it's not. I've seen my grandmother, when I was younger, I saw my grandmother do it more than once. Back to the scripture. That left him, of course, in a state of extreme hunger, which the devil took advantage of in the first test. Since you are God's son, speak the word that will turn these stones into loaves of bread. Jesus answered by quoting Deuteronomy. It takes more than bread to stay alive. It takes a steady stream of words from God's mouth. For the second test, the devil took him to the holy city. He sat him on top of the temple and said, "Since you're God's son, jump." The devil goaded him by quoting Psalm 91. That's right, the enemy knows the scripture as well as you and I, probably better. He has placed you in the care of angels. They will catch you so that you won't so much as stub your toe on a stone. Jesus countered with another citation from Deuteronomy. Don't you dare test the Lord your God. For the third test, the devil took him to the peak of a huge mountain. He gestured expansively, pointing out all the earth's kingdoms, how glorious they all were. Then he said, "They're yours, lock, stock, and barrel. Just go down on your knees and worship me, and they're yours." Jesus' refusal was curt. "Beat it, Satan." He backed his rebuke with a third quotation from Deuteronomy. Worship the Lord your God, and only him. Serve him with absolute single-heartedness. Test was over. The devil left. And in his place, angels came and took care of Jesus' needs. Again, that's Matthew 4, verses 1 through 11. So here on day 3 of 4, I'm going to talk about the encounter with our enemy. We said on Friday there are three primary encounters we must face in solitude. An encounter with ourself and our pain, an encounter with our enemy, and an encounter with our God. Up next on the docket is an encounter with our enemy. In Matthew 4, we just read the story of Jesus in the Eremos. In verse 1, we read, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit," meaning this whole story is at God's initiative, to be tempted by the devil, which can be translated for the purpose of being tempted by the devil. Now, do you find the story confusing? Why would the Spirit lead Jesus into solitude to be tempted by the devil? For years, this made no sense to me. But the story clicked for me when I realized I had the whole thing backwards. The Eremos isn't the place of weakness, it's the place of strength. Now, this is how most of us think about solitude, as the place we go to draw on God's power to defeat the enemy. But it is how the early followers of Jesus thought about solitude. When you go into solitude, you encounter what they call the three enemies of the soul, which were kind of like an unholy trinity at war with the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. The three enemies are the world, the flesh, and the devil. We encounter the world when we get a little distance from the noise of the world. We begin to realize just how many of the norms of our sinful society we've come to accept, how compromised our heart is, how we've lost our convictions. We encounter the flesh, the bent, warped desires in our own heart and body itself. They all come up. And we encounter the enemy as demonic thoughts assault our mind. The desert fathers and mothers offer this insight. Based on the story of Jesus in Matthew 4, they point out that Jesus' fight with the devil is not like a scene out of a Marvel movie. Rather, it's a quiet conversation in his mind between the truth of Scripture and the lies of the evil one. They saw the fight with the three enemies of the soul as primarily a war in our mind with evil thoughts. But to get victory over the three enemies of the soul, we, like Jesus, have to go into solitude. But it's not easy. As long as we stay tethered to our world of diversion, all the noise, the crowds, the entertainment, and doom scrolling that keep us from ever facing the dark underbelly in our own souls, we remain in bondage and never get free. This is why the three enemies, all three, the world itself, the flesh, and especially the devil, do everything they can to keep us away from the Eremos. I call it the resistance. Ruth Haley Barton writes, "The practices of solitude and silence are radical because they challenge us on every level of our existence. All the forces of evil band together to prevent our knowing God in this way, because it brings to an end the dominion of those powers in our lives. If and when you attempt to go into the Eremos, you will feel the resistance. But if you follow the Spirit into the quiet place, if you face whatever comes and draw on God's power to fight evil, within and without, you will discover that on the other side of the struggle is freedom. If you pay attention, you'll start to notice that people who spend a lot of time in solitude are some of the most calm, tranquil, and joyful people you know. They just radiate this inner peace. But it's a peace that was won by struggle. Many people abandon solitude long before it does its work of liberation. The task is to persevere until the voice of the enemy is defeated by the voice of God. Listen to Luke's ending to the story. And Jesus returned to Galilee in the power of the Spirit. I believe this is the call of Jesus upon our generation today, to go into solitude and come back in the power of the Spirit, free and ready to set others free. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, thank you for showing us how to stand strong in the face of temptation. When the enemy tries to deceive us, help us to respond with truth and courage, just as you did. Fill us with your word, strengthen our spirit, lead us to victory through obedience and faith. It's in your powerful name we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen, and happy Monday. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. We'll start in the U.S. with the cash markets, or the indices, as they're called. Currently, the Dow is up 27 points. NASDAQ's up 57. S&P 500 is up 4. The Russell 2000 is down 1. So, mixed markets, but only by a point at the moment. We'll see who follows who by the end of this broadcast. We had a huge gap open on the indices to the upside last night, and to the downside on gold and silver. In the commodity basket, crude oil is up $1.33, trading $66.49 last. That's a gain of a little over 2%. Gold is down $24, trading $33.1150 last. Silver's down 4 cents, trading $38.32 last. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei fell 457 points, just over 1%. Shanghai gained 4 points. The Hang Seng rose 173. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 38. The DAX down 247, a little over 1%, and the CAC down 33. So we had a mixed day in Asia. It was a red day for the UK. And at the moment, it is a mixed Radio Monday here in the US of A. The Russell's in the red by less than a point. So today, we just may see the Russell following the rest of the pack into the green. Let's take a look at the global news. The United States and the European Union announced a trade deal yesterday. I think that's why we saw that huge gap open last night. The framework sees the U.S. applying a 15% tariff on most EU goods, including cars and pharmaceuticals, and a mutual reduction to 0% tariffs on others, including aircraft and semiconductor equipment. Steel and aluminum will remain tariffed at 50%. Tariffs on some goods, including wine, are still under negotiation. You might have to get used to drinking that Napa Valley wine. The announcement ends months of uncertainty for the two of the world's largest economies, responsible for nearly one-third of global trade. As part of the deal, the EU has committed to spending an additional $600 billion in the U.S., including military equipment, and $750 billion on liquid gas and nuclear energy. The EU intends to phase out Russian gas imports by 2028. The deal prevents a baseline 30% tariff on EU goods, a change Trump said would go into effect this Friday if they did not get a deal, but they say we have a deal. In addition to the 27-member EU bloc, Trump has reached revised deals with the UK, Japan, Indonesia, and Vietnam. Israel says it will implement a tactical pause in parts of Gaza, ceasing hostilities in 3 areas to facilitate aid delivery. Now, all of this should be unnecessary. The previous administration, I guess, was asleep at the wheel. The country said it would not conduct operations in al-Mawasi, Deir al-Balah, and Gaza City for 10 hours daily, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. until further notice. Israel also said it had begun airdropping aid. Let's pray that it actually gets to the people who need it. Now, science. This is interesting. A blockbuster paper claiming the first ever observation of an organism using arsenic to grow was retracted last week by the prestigious journal Science. The decision caps a 15-year controversy marked by intense criticism and the departure of the lead author from scientific research. All known life relies on 6 core elements: hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. Researchers argued a microbe found in California's Mono Lake could swap out some phosphorus for arsenic, a claim that would reshape what is known about the building blocks of life. The paper generated significant public interest, amplified by a high-profile NASA news conference, in part theorizing about new forms of extraterrestrial life. Critics argued the data was flawed and such biology was impossible on Earth. The retraction did not include accusations of misconduct and follows a recent profile of lead author Felissa Wolf Simpson's part-time return to science. If you have an interest in that kind of stuff, you can Google it up. Just Google arsenic life retraction. If you've ever been to a play, if you're the play-going type, I bet one of the first plays you ever saw was Arsenic and Old Lace. I won't spoil the plot for you. I will tell you not to watch the Royals. I watched that thing. The final episode was so disappointing. And the reason it was so disappointing is because they just had to wrap it. Because one of the main directors, I think it was the director, was charged with all kinds of sexual misconduct. And when those reports came out, well, you might have heard of a little TV show called One Tree Hill. It was very popular back in the 90s, I guess it was. And members of that cast started echoing the same sentiments. So there will be no season 5 of The Royals, and they just leave you hanging. It was good entertainment. I mean, it was definitely adult entertainment. It's not for the kids, but if you're thinking about watching it because I mentioned it last week, go watch something better. All right, Wall Street, the high water mark for Wall Street's S&P 500 targets have moved up amid the market rally. We've had a series of higher highs and higher closing highs. Oppenheimer's chief market strategist, John Stoltzfus, boosted his year-end target to 7,100 from 5,950. Now, Goldman Sachs, about a month ago, raised their target to 6,000. Oppenheimer's now at 7,100. Our number was at 5,800 and change. Guess we're going to have to modify ours as well if this keeps going. In a note to clients on Sunday night, Oppenheimer's strategist said progress on trade negotiations removes an uncertainty that had weighed on our market outlook. The new target is now the highest on Wall Street and calls for another 11% rally in the S&P. Should the S&P 500 close out 2025 above 7,100, the benchmark index will have rallied more than 20% for a third straight year. But I turned on the TV and they said these were the last days. The tariffs were going to destroy the world. Inflation's going to go through the roof. What happened? I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask the people who said that. President Trump and the EU president announced Sunday, this is just a rehash, that the US and the EU have agreed to a framework trade deal. Trump speaking after the negotiations in Scotland on Sunday. He went there to do business and play a little golf. He has a golf course there. Trump called the deal the biggest of them all so far and said that 15% is not to be underestimated, but it is the best we could get. Meanwhile, the South China Morning Post, a Hong Kong-based English language newspaper, reported that Beijing and Washington are expected to extend their tariff truce by another 3 months at trade talks in Stockholm beginning on Monday. Come on now. Can't keep moving the goalposts. President Trump will loom large over the Federal Reserve's FOMC meeting this week, which starts tomorrow. We'll get the announcement on Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, and then at 2:30 there will be a press conference with Jerome Powell. Even if the central bank does what the market expects and keeps interest rates on hold, it would definitely be a surprise to the upside. Jerome even gave us a 1/4 point cut. Trump's calling for 3 points. But we'll probably end up with nothing. Trump and other top White House officials have been hammering Fed Chair Jerome Powell for months over his wait-and-see rate stance and his insistence that more time is needed to assess how the president's tariffs will affect the path of inflation. Well, Jerome, fortune favors the brave. The president took that message directly to the Fed last Thursday as he toured a $2.5 billion renovation of the central bank's headquarters and confronted Powell in person while the two argued in front of reporters over the true cost of the project. Now, Jerome, I doubt he's ever driven a nail or sawed a piece of board in his life. Trump built his empire on construction. If I had to choose between the two to build me a house, well, I'd probably go with Trump. Oil is up today after President Trump said he would reduce the deadline for Russia to agree to a truce in Ukraine, compounding earlier gains from a U.S.-European Union trade deal. Well, oil companies are about to get happy feet because they need crude over $70 to be profitable. The S&P 500 index's relentless advance to record highs faces a crucial test this week, with four technology behemoths worth a combined $11.3 trillion reporting earnings over a two-day stretch. The earnings season is off to a solid start, but now all eyes are on quarterly results from Microsoft and Meta on Wednesday, Apple and Amazon on Thursday. So Wednesday, we're going to have the Fed announcement, Microsoft's earnings, and Meta's earnings. And then just as things start to quiet down, on Thursday, we get Apple and Amazon. The announcements will give investors a key glimpse into the health of businesses ranging from electronic devices and software, cloud computing, and e-commerce. President Trump said he would cut the timeline for Russian leader Vladimir Putin to reach a truce with Ukraine or face potential economic penalties, ramping up pressure on Moscow to bring the fighting to a halt. I mean, it's as simple as saying, hey guys, let's knock it off. Now, that's what Trump has said repeatedly. But it seems that Putin wants war. And I think Zelensky. I mean, economically, his country's doing pretty doggone good with all this U.S. cash flowing in. And once the war stops, guess what? It's like turning off that currency spigot. Trump, on July 14th, initially announced a 50-day deadline on Russia, which would have fallen on September 2nd. But Trump says he's going to make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days from today. Well, flights across Russia have been grounded after a cyber attack hit the country's largest airline, Aeroflot. Details of the cyber attack remain limited, but a pro-Ukrainian hacker group known for targeting Russian organizations called Silent Crow took credit for the cyber attack alongside Belarusian hackers, citing Russia's occupation of Ukraine. The group said in a Telegram post seen by TechCrunch that it had taken control of Aeroflot's critical systems, including terabytes of internal data. The group said it destroyed the airline systems that it had access to. Screenshots posted by the hackers allegedly show access to several Aeroflot systems, including its internal Active Directory of internal users. Aeroflot's website is currently unavailable, with an error message saying it has been temporarily restricted. Footage from inside a Russian airport shows a departure screen showing flights canceled across the board. A statement from Russian prosecutors confirmed more than 60 flights were canceled, citing the hack attack. And last, it's time for TechCrunch's Disrupt 2025. The AI stage comes alive with the voices shaping the future of technology, creativity, and security. Top venture capitalists reveal what it takes to win funding in a rapidly evolving landscape as they place bets on the next wave of AI founders. Hear groundbreaking insights from leaders at visionary startups like Apptronic, 11 Labs, Hugging Face, Runway, Wonder Dynamics, Writer, and Wave, pioneers redefining the future of tech. And you can Google that, TechCrunch Disrupt. And I'm sure they'll have a lot of live feed on what they're discussing at any given time. And one thing I forgot to mention when we're on the global news, I'm sure most of you know who Will.I.Am is, the Grammy winner. from the Black Eyed Peas. He had an opportunity to invest in Airbnb back in the day. They were looking for $200,000. Well, Will.I.am said no. Had he invested that $200,000, it would be worth over $100 million today. He said the problem was he just had tunnel vision. Now, there's another company out there. You might want to write this down. Pacaso. Pacaso. And take a look at what they're up to. Right now, you can become a shareholder for around $2.90 a share. This is not a recommendation to invest in this company, but it is a recommendation to take a look at it and see what you think. All right, local news. What do we got? Logic 247. It's our 24/7 around-the-clock E-mini alert service. It's not just E-minis, it's also crude, gold, and silver. Over the last 365 weeks, we've issued over 20,160 individual handcrafted alerts. I think that's the right number. It's 20,100 and something. I think it's 165 maybe. I don't know. We'll look at it later. And what we averaged over the last 365 weeks was 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Valerie did the recap this morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. I've not put out any additional alerts yet today. So since the markets opened last night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we've issued a total of 14 alerts. Still waiting on the outcome of 8. That left 6 actionable alerts on the table. And so far, nothing stopped out. But the week is early. Last week, we ended up with 13% stopped out. And it was a pretty heavy week. I think we had over 60 alerts last week. Now, the logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session, and vice versa. Every logic alert has an entry price, long or short, then an initial target designed to help you get your goal for the day. And then typically there will be additional targets and then a final trade to target. Now, of course, you can trade them. I can't stop you. But what I really want you to do is I want you to focus on using the logic alerts to learn how to read a chart. If you're going to learn how to trade, you got to learn how to read a chart. So the week's off to a pretty good start. Now, 365 weeks, that's a very long time. But years before Logic 247, we had our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. Now, they're different. Number one, they don't come out around the clock. Typically, they come out 5 minutes before the market opens. Each new session, like today's the Monday session, but tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, that will be the beginning of the Tuesday session. Futures trade around the clock with a 1-hour break each day from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. So stocks stop trading on Wall Street at 4 p.m. Eastern. Futures stop trading at 5 p.m. Eastern. Stocks don't reopen until the following morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. But futures open up an hour after they close at 6 p.m. Eastern. Now, I had a feeling we were going to have some big gaps last night, so I held off. In fact, I put a note in the discussion group that said, I'm not going to put the CTAs out ahead of the open. And I'm glad I chose to do that, because when we go through the charts, you'll see why. Big gaps up on the indices and gaps down on the metals. Okay. So it was 20 minutes after the open that the CTAs were published last night. So what that means is 10 minutes before the first 30-minute candle closed, all of our traders and trial members had all of these targets. S&P 500, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. 6:20 p.m. Eastern. Today, based on who's reporting earnings today, who is reporting earnings today? I gave you some big names that are coming out Wednesday and Thursday. But today, after the bell, we've got Waste Management, CLS, CDNS, NUE, TLRY, and BRO. I don't think any of those are going to rock the market, so good chance. And I'll let you know in the discussion group. But more than likely, the CTAs will come out at 5:55 p.m. Eastern. Okay. Now we can go to the charts. And what do we have? Another new all-time historic high. Now this is where we closed on Friday. Pretty much high of the session. And then we gapped all the way up here last night. And right now the market is trying to get below Friday's high. You see how Friday's high is acting as good support? We've spiked it a little bit. How we close today will be important. Now, even if we get a down close, we've got good support here at the black step line, at blue and climbing. And we have the 62% fib retracement. And then, of course, the daily BBC. On the upside, remember Goldman Sachs changed their target to 6,000. Oppenheimer changed theirs to 7,100. Ours has been sitting at 85, 80, 65, 85. That's probably going to get adjusted if the market keeps climbing. We're slightly off the low of the day, and we're way off the high of the day. Finding support right where you'd expect. Friday's closing high. Now the daily chart's important because institutional traders look at daily, weekly, and monthly charts the way you and I look at 30-minute charts, 5-minute charts, tick charts, and range charts. It has everything to do with account size. So I encourage you, whatever you trade, stocks, futures, crypto, Forex, ETFs, look at the daily chart for 2 minutes before you go to the smaller time frame and start trading. Number one, it gives you a free look over the shoulder of the deep pockets who actually move price. You can see what they're up to. Not doing a lot of buying today. You know, everyone's always going to try to catch that falling knife. Not a good idea. So you can make a decision whether you want to go with the flow or fight the flow. Also, you're able to identify where the market is most likely to find major resistance and major support, like we just discussed. All alerts are created on the 30-minute chart. Here's the S. The vertical line separates today Monday, back here's Friday, back here's Thursday. Now, this was last week's highest weekly trading zone. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Oh, it shouldn't be that hard, should it? Well, I guess it is. Yep. Okay. 21.22. So we actually closed right here. So we did close above the highest weekly trading zone on the ES. Has that ever happened before? Yeah. Now in early trading Friday, we ran right up to the zone. And when price rallies up to a zone, we expect resistance. When price drops to a zone, we expect support, like we got here and here, until proven otherwise. Now this is that big gap open last night. So it was 20 minutes into the life of this candle that the CTA targets were published. Okay. So we didn't hit it on the first candle. Okay. We opened here, ran up here, and then we were in the process of dropping back down. It was at 6:20 p.m. Eastern that all of the targets you'll see were published. Now the weekly trading zones, these are last week zones, because the new zones don't come out till Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. That's how it's been for the last 15 and a half years. So any alerts I put out on Sunday night have to be based on last week's zones, because the new zones, as I said, don't come out till Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. So 20 minutes into the life of this candle. Now on tomorrow's broadcast, you'll see this week's zones. All of our traders and trial members got the zones this morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. That gives them plenty of time to get them on their charts before Wall Street even wakes up for the week. We had the huge gap. Price kind of went sideways. Once blue and climbing gets directly above price, that becomes potential resistance. But price rode the back of the black step line right up to the long target at 64.55. And the new all-time historic high is 64.57.75. Oh, you know what we forgot to do? We forgot to bump this up. 57.75. See how close we can get. Well, it looks easy, but it's not. All right, so we're 1 point above. What was it again? 57.75. So we're within 1 point. That's good enough for a daily chart. You can see it a little more accurately here. So once the market runs into resistance, as it did, it's going to go look for support. Now the green line's called the BVC. It stands for Bull Bear Cross. When price crosses above the green line, we're bullish and expect higher prices. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and expect lower prices. When price reverts to the mean, as it always does, or in our parlance, pulls back to the BBC, the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. Like here, 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 here. Here we actually traded through, then popped right back above it, but then the pullback, it held. Now down here, you can see the pullback held, the pullback held, the pullback held, the pullback held, until it didn't. So the pullback holds more often than not, but eventually it will trade through. That keeps the markets fluid and tradable. So we get below the BBC, we get a leg and a retracement. That's how price moves. Price doesn't move in a straight line. Okay? And an awful lot happens inside of a 30-minute candle. Price attempted a retracement to the BBC, but there wasn't enough buying strength to get it there. Now, you should see that as a tremendous sign of weakness. Just look at the candle that followed it up. Took us all the way down. We spiked last week's highest weekly zone. We found support here in an area that I probably would not have been looking. I would have been looking for support probably down around this area here, and of course at the short target. And we may see the short target by the end of the day. Remember, this is where we closed Friday. So the ES now, remember everything was in the green but the Russell when I gave you the numbers from around the world? See how that's changed. The Dow's now in the red. S&P, now this is the cash index. It's only up by, it just went unchanged on the session. Yeah, looks like we got lower prices coming. So probably we'll end the session back below last week's highest weekly zone. The highest zone this week for the ES is up at 64.95. But those will be on my charts tomorrow. Okay. So a leg, a retracement, a leg, a retracement, a leg, a retracement. And now, last week's highest zone, 64.21/22. And the low so far, 21.5. Right in the middle of that zone. Just like we saw on Friday on that pullback. But this is where we closed. Now remember, the futures prices and the cash index prices are always going to be a little different. As you get closer to the expiration of a futures contract, those numbers tend to draw closer together. All right, so we're bouncing off this zone. If we break through, look for support here. And then here. See, we had a bullish cross right here. That's when the blue line gets above the green line. When you have a bullish cross that leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits that area will almost always be good support. At least the first time down. On the second or third attempt, it very well may break through. On the Dow. This was the big gap open on the Dow last night. And then 10 minutes before this candle closed, the targets were published. Price went sideways. Blue and climbing was directly overhead. But we managed to punch through. Hit that long target at 45,295. When the market finds resistance, it will go look for support. And just like the ES, it came down through the zone. Now that was not last week's highest weekly zone on the Dow. The highest weekly zone on the Dow last week was up here. So we got a leg, found support at the zone to the tick. See the bullish cross? It led to an extended move. Blue line got above the green line, just like on the ES. Now you see the ES hasn't gotten all the way back there yet. It's down here. But on the Dow, it's already happened. Pretty much to the tick. 44975. What's the low? 44958. Okay. So we spiked through it just a little bit. Support will send the market looking for resistance, which will send the market looking for support, which it bound at last week's zone. That bounced us back up to the BBC. The pullback held. Now price has run into blue and climbing, but it looks like it's going to trade through it. In fact, I'd be surprised if we don't revisit the short target. Okay. The Russell, this was the gap higher open. CTAs were published on this candle. And then we ran right up, hit the long target. consolidated, ran up and hit the highest weekly trading zone from last week at 2293/94. Resistance, of course, sends the market looking for support. We consolidated at the BBC for a few hours, and then we got a leg and a retracement. But the pullback held. See, both candles are still touching the BBC. So it's not just a matter of, inching above it. It's a matter of closing above it and then pulling away from it. That's how you determine if it held or if it didn't hold. So this pullback held, and then we tested the BBC. See that little wick? We had a little green candle right up to the BBC, and then the bottom fell out. Traded right through that zone from last week and found support, just like we did on the Dow at the bullish cross. This was the first time down with support. If you don't learn anything else, learn that. That right there can keep it going. Support, give us a nice bounce. Back to the short target. We did trade through it. On the second attempt, we didn't get through it. The third attempt, we finally got through it. And this area right here, where the step line crossed the BBC, we spiked that area just a little bit. This low right here lines up here. So we got a bounce, but we were unable to take out this high. So we got a high, a lower high, a lower high. And it looks like we've touched the short target again. So we hit it once, we hit it twice. Now notice on the bounce, the zone from last week served as good resistance. When price moves up to a zone, we expect resistance. When it drops to a zone, we expect support, until proven otherwise. Okay? Things have quietened down a little bit. So again, how we close for the session, that'll be important. NQ also had a gap higher open. Now, I think every one of the gaps have closed. The NQ closed on this candle right here. So we hit the long target, consolidated for a few hours, got below the BBC. Then we had a retracement and a leg and a retracement. And now we're headed for the short target. As we are on the ES, the YM, and the Russell have both hit the short target and the long target. We come back, we'll see what's happened with the NQ, and then we'll cover crude, gold, and silver. Right now, Michael's going to give us a recap of what happened in the live training room and do some live trading on the TradingView platform. And I'll come back, finish the CTA recap, and wrap things up with our good word for the day.
All right. Here we go. So, during the break, I did all kinds of running.
Looks good.
All right, here we go. There. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, the 28th day of July, 2025. Now, if you have not taken a free trial with us, go ahead to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button. There's no credit card required for the trial. Click on that. It's going to bring you to the registration page. Just fill out this page, right? When you fill out this page, first name, last name, email, phone number. Down here at the bottom, make sure we get your TradingView login ID. Hit register, and we'll get your indicators indicating for you on your desktop. Okay? When you begin the trial, you want to make sure you do that before the trial. All right. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you have to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. We had a slow start to the week this week. We Ended up with 23 ticks on the NQ, 65 ticks on the Russell, minus 15 on gold, and minus 7 on the ES. Now, the only one that was at the high of the day was this one right here. So we were well off the high of the day today. We're actually multiples of that at the high of the day. On the NQ today, the high was 48 ticks. And on the Russell, as I said, that is the high of the day at 65. On the gold, the high of the day was plus 15, ended up with minus 15. And on the ES, the high of the day was plus 4, ended up with minus 7. So today it took 4 minutes and 3 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're at $1,400, and we took a total of 25 trades. So on a month now, we're at $14,770 over 19 business days, averaging $777 per contract per 2-hour business. Look at all those sevens, almost all sevens. It's gonna be lucky. On the year, we're at $170,235, more sevens. Over 128 business days, averaging $1,329.96. Now, following the 24/20 blueprint, if you were to quit trading when you get the goal for the day and you were to add 1 contract per month, so far this year, you would be up $82,082. Over 15.86 hours. You would only had to work 15.86 hours. Be up $82,000, averaging $5,173 per hour. Okay, $5,173 per hour. And that is that, right? So let's get into the actual trades. We had 25 trades today. And we'll start out over here on this guy right here. Our first trade on gold was right here. We picked up 3 ticks. Then the next trade we picked up 5 ticks. Then I think we're missing a trade. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're missing a trade somewhere. Here we are. The first trade, we picked up 3 ticks. And I didn't realize we had that much movement in gold. We didn't get another trade set up in there, but there was a ton of movement. The next trade setup that we actually had was right here. No, that wasn't a trade. Sorry. There was one that I thought I was in that gapped down, but I didn't get filled on. It was something in here. And that wasn't a trade. Then it moved up, and then it moved back down. This one right here, we picked up 10 ticks on that to get us to 15. Or, sorry, we had 3, then we had 2 to get us to 5, then we had 10 to get us to 15. Then we stopped out, brought us back down to 0. And then we stopped out again, brought us to minus 15. It was this one right here that I thought I had gotten, but it gapped right by me. And I did end up getting filled on it. During the break, let's see, this was not a trade. Nothing all through there. This right here was a trade, right here. This was a valid trade that would have worked out. And that was it on the gold. Okay, and the Russell was pretty good to us today. And I think, and this is the beginning of it here with the Russell. The first trade on the Russell, we picked up 25 ticks. The next trade, we picked up 20 to get us to 45. The one after that, we picked up, looks like 15 to get us to 60, but I think that was actually supposed to be more than that. I wrote down 15 to get us to 60. And then we had oh, I missed something here. That's what it was. Okay. So we actually have more on this. 1, 2, 3, 4 trades. 1, 2, 3, 4. We had one more plus 10 at the end on it that got us to 65. This was a plus 10 at the end that got us to 65, but there was one in here that got us from, we should have gone from 45. Okay, we should have gone from 45 up to 70, and then from 70 to 75, and then 75 to 85 is what we should have done on this. So there's one in here that's missing where I got 10 ticks, or 5 ticks. Sorry, one in here that's missing where I got 5 ticks, and I just wrote it all down wrong. So this ends up being actually 85. Okay, because This one where I wrote down that I got 15, but I actually got 25 on that. And that got us to 70, not 60. And then the one after that was a 5 tick that got us to 75. And the one after that was a 10 tick that got us to 85. And that's how we ended it with the Russell. So the Russell was still the best one of the day. Let's see. This right here during the break was a trade right at the end of the session. That was a trade that would have stopped me out if I'd taken it. And there were no more. That was the only one. It was one trade there during the break. All right. And the ES now. ES, this is the whole day on the ES. We started out here with a +4. And then we had a -10. That put us at -6. Then we had a +5. Got us to -1. Then we had a -10. Put us at -11. Then we had a +4. That got us to -7. During the break, I don't see anything here during the break. Nope, no trades during the break. So there were not a lot of opportunities today on the ES. Now the NQ. We were doing pretty well on the NQ, but they were mostly small trades. Okay, the first trade we had on the NQ, we got 12 ticks. Now, I probably should have gotten more than 12 on that, but we ended up with 12. I should have gotten gold for the day on that first trade, but then we had a break even, then another break even, and then we went from 12 up to 28, from 28 to 32, then a break even, then went from 32 to 36, another break even, and somewhere in here we went from 36 to 48, and then we stopped out and went down to 23, and we had another break even, and that was it. Now, during the break, let's see. This didn't make it, so we wouldn't add anything there. Switched it all around, started getting to the long side. That was below. That wasn't even a trade in there. This one right here, that would have been okay to take right there. That would move up. Nothing through here. Then it switched it around, nothing through there, nothing through there. Nothing all the way through here. Maybe this one right here, because it was flat. You could have taken that. It would have eventually worked out. Okay, you could have also taken that, which would have worked out. So there were a couple of trades during the break on the NQ, but not all that much going around today. Now, I wanted to look at this. Dwayne's probably already gone over this, but we did have a new all-time high right here this morning on the ES. And all it's done is sell off since it hit that all-time high. If I go into here for a sec, just go look at this. Bitcoin's down 1%. XRP's down 1%, almost 2% today. So the crypto's not really doing anything today either. I'm guessing that the Fed on Wednesday is going to be a big deal. Right, we'll see what happens with it. But right now, I'm just waiting for trades. On the morning session, this ended up being an 85, not 75 or 65. There was one trade that I had written down 15 on, and it was actually, I'm sorry, I'd written down. I don't write it down. I wrote it down wrong. It's actually a plus 25, and I didn't write it down right. Anyway, so we're up 23 on the NQ, 85 on the Russell, minus 15 on the gold, and minus 7 on the ES. Put us at 302.50 this morning. Still not a banner day, but pretty good. Took 4 minutes and 3 trades. That's the important part. Getting up to 1,400, and to a total of 25 trades. 25, I think it's actually 26 trades. So on the month, we're at 14,870 over 19 days, averaging 782. And on the year, we're at 170,335 over 128 days, averaging $1,333 per contract per 2-hour business day. I think we're at all those 7s on these side. Following the 24/20 blueprint, so far this year, you would have only had to work 15.86 hours and be up $82,082 right now. $82,082 is kind of odd. You'd be on your 7th contract. We'll go to 8. Well, you would go to 8 on Friday, right? Because this month we had to make 14,000 to be able to go to the next contract. Right? 7 times 2, $2,000 per contract. All right. That's it. Let's get back in here and start doing some of this stuff. Okay. Just thinking. All right. So we don't have a flat midpoint here, so we're not going to trade that. We don't have a flat midpoint there. We have a flat midpoint over here on gold, but we need a couple of bars from here. We need an up close and then another up close with a down close. Okay, so we're a few bars away from a trade on the NQ right now. Okay, so this is on a daily chart. So the high a few days ago, this is Friday's high right there. Is that right? Yeah. The 23rd, that wasn't Friday's high. But anyway, it sold off from there. The full sell-off would be down here, like 275 or something like that. But this is XRP, in case you don't know. And so if it's going to do what it should technically do, then it should actually sell off down to there, right about here at 280. And then it should bounce from there all the way up to 450. Okay, that's what it should do from a technical perspective, in my opinion. So I was saying a while back, anything under $2 is a buying opportunity. And now you can see it's gone from $2 all the way up to $3.69. It's a pretty good gain. Anybody listened to me back then? Here we are. Nothing there, nothing there, nothing there, and nothing there. We came out of the overbought over here, reset the midpoint. Okay. Now, of the people who are in here right now, is anybody having trouble with their Sierra DOMs? Okay, because I ended up helping Cliff out yesterday, and there was a different kind of problem that he had. He had done almost all the stuff, but there was one little thing, nagging little thing that was outstanding. And all I had to do was enter in his name. But for those of you guys who don't know what I'm talking about, last week we ran into a problem where Sierra closed a loophole that they had, and they required us to go here and redo all of these agreements right here. Okay, and then from there, required us to go to the Denali exchange data feed thing and redo this right here. Well, all of these, redo all of these. Well, first you got to do those agreements, redo all of these, and then go here and choose which one of these you want and activate it. Okay, this CME group's got all the stuff with the depth of the market. It's $39 a month. When you do this, if you do this, first, if you did, like today I did something with Mark because he didn't want to pay the $39 right now because you're going to have to pay it again on Friday. It does it calendar month. So you're going to have to pay it again on Friday. But what he did is he paid the $6, so he's not getting depth of market. He's still getting all access to all the markets, so he can still trade. But he's only paying the $6. Then Thursday, he's going to have to cancel this one. And then Friday, activate this one. All right, so pay the $39 beginning Friday at the first of the month. Okay, beginning Friday at the first of the month. So just want to point that out for you all. Fill out the new paperwork, you're just waiting until Friday to pay the new fees. Okay, well, Jeff, I just wanted to show you, you can do the same thing here. Go into here and pay $6 for the rest of the week. And then you'll have stuff to trade with. Okay. If you're just trading the NQ and the ES, then yeah, you really need the CME. With the depth, I think it's not even that one. You need CME with market depth for a non-professional. You need number 4. Jeff, you need this one here, number 13. That's what you need right here. Okay, that's the one you need. If you just trade the NQ and the ES, then just be $13 a month. Okay. Number 7, if you do that, it's just gonna be top of book. It doesn't say top of book, but that's all it is. Well, that's without a trading. You don't want. Did you say number 7? You said number 4. You did say number 4. Yeah, I thought you said number 7. Yeah, number 4 is what you need. Number 4 is what you need. That's gonna be with market depth. If you do it without market depth, it's gonna be this one right here. Without market depth, it's $2 a month. Yeah. Yeah, you see, they want to charge me this and that and that and that. That's what they want to charge me. All those, the 150, the other 150, the other 150, and the 78. So 500 something bucks a month. That's what they want to charge. It's like the old days when TradeStation used to charge that much every month. Anybody been around that long? You may recall those days. All right. So it's 1:16. We have about 14 minutes left, and we don't have any trades yet. Okay. That was not a trade there. It wasn't stable. We could get something here on the Russell. If we get an up close on this bar and the next bar, we could have something after that. On the ES, the same thing. If we get an up close on this bar and the next bar, we could have something after that. The NQ's got to make it down into the oversold. So we're going to get a down close on this bar, then 2 up closes, and then we're going to have something. Right. Now that I look at all that stuff in hindsight, it's basically just going filling out the forms and selecting which one to use. It seemed like it was so complicated. First figured it out. It wasn't that bad. Just don't know how to get to the forms or anything like that. But if you get into that Telegram channel, this one, it's open to the public, and having these links was pretty much key, because you can go, if you click into the wrong place, you can always start over. Just start here and work your way through. And you would start here, and that brings you to this page where you got the agreements. Then after you do the agreements, you just click on this link to Denali. Click on that and make sure those are all signed and checked. Then click on that and choose which one you want to activate. And then you got to go make your payment. Okay. I guess I've done this a few times today. All right. So we have a chance for a trade here, a chance for a trade here, and a chance for a trade here. No chance on the gold. All the indices were in the overbought now. We need another up close and test the midpoint. We're at the midpoint. I mean, we're overbought here, but we need an up close to test the midpoint on the Russell. Okay. We need an up close to test the midpoint on the Russell. Easy and obvious trades. That's what you want. All right. Does anybody have any more questions about anything? Anyone? Anything? As we sit here and wait. We came out of the overbought, so you're not going to have anything there now. We came out of the overbought, so you're not going to have anything there now. This has got to get into the overbought and then come out of the overbought. Let's reset the midpoint. This is now going to get into the oversold and come back up. The Russell actually got down into the oversold right away. So there's a chance on the Russell now. Okay, but nothing over here because it's going to go oversold and then pull back. All right. Nothing on the NQ. We haven't made it down here. Nothing on the ES. Need the up close, put us in the overbought. Now we need to hit the midpoint and give a down close. It could happen on this bar. On this, it could happen on this bar. Nothing on gold, nothing on the Russell, nothing on the NQ. The ES is our only play right here. If it happens. Didn't happen on the ES. Just not getting a lot of trades here today. Because sold the open of that being super aggressive. Let's see if we can try to add a little aggression to the trading and see if we can look with any trade setups here. Doesn't look like it. Not really. Just this one right here. We could have sold the open right there. Been in profit right now. On the NQ, it's going against the overall trend, but you can buy the open of that. Again, really aggressive. Buy the open of this bar right here. That'd be really aggressive. Should make it back up to the midpoint is what you'd be looking for. Okay, 2 up closes to get it up there. One on this bar, one on the next. Volume overall seems low on all markets. Michael, I'm looking at the NQ. The NQ is kind of trading thin right now. No trades anywhere following the conservative rules. There's no trades anywhere here right now. Right, aggressive rules. There's a couple of trades. There's a long here on the Russell right now. There's a long over here on the NQ a few minutes ago. Being aggressive. There's a long on the ES right now. Being aggressive. Now that's being super aggressive. If you want to be kind of moderately aggressive, you would go with the background color. Right? So if the blue leads into the overbought when it's red, you would sell. Right? Not so much when it leads into the oversold when it's red. See what I mean? Micro Q volume is only 500,000 today. And that's usually more than the large contract, Michael. There's usually more liquidity in the micros. There should be. It's 1/10 the cost. So they're usually more liquid in the micros than they are in the regular. I haven't looked to see, but I guess we could just look and see on the ES right now. Indicators, technicals. We'll go down to the bottom and through. Oops, I thought I was going down to the bottom. All the way down to the bottom and put a volume on there. Okay, so this is a 7 range, but let's do the daily. Okay, the daily volume today, 592.56, and the daily volume yesterday, well, Friday, I guess, I'm not sure that was Friday or yesterday. Get rid of that. And the daily volume yesterday, 774.29, but that's the whole day, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty low volume, I think, halfway through the day. It is kind of low. Let's go back here. This, and this, and this. Get rid of the volume. All right, so we have the potential for a trade coming up here. We need an up close followed by a down close, and up close followed by a down close. It's gonna take a couple of bars over here on the NQ. A couple of up closes, I think. There it is. Is that in the overbought? No, I don't think so. It's gonna take another up close followed by a down close on the NQ. So pretty much all of them at the same time. You're going to take another up close followed by a down close. The gold just flipped the YVR. Okay, so if you took that long trade based on the super aggressive counter trend, it's in profit now. Russell's had a little profit, gone to break even. The NQ would not have done anything at all. I guess it did right here on that bar. Okay, so the ES needs a down close right now. Right. And the Russell, you'd have profit in it right now. And I'd be looking for a down close here on the ES. It's got a high of 19, so you can sell 17 on that. And the Russell, not the Russell, but the NQ, got a high of 72.75, so you would be looking to sell 67.75. That'd be just right. Right, 67.75. If it goes up any higher, you're not going to be able to take a trade there on the NQ. But right now, it's just right. So you have potential trade on the ES and potential trade on the NQ. Nothing over here on gold yet. If this goes up any higher, it's not going to be a trade potential. Okay. It goes up to 78 because the midpoint is at 68. What the heck? If it goes up to 73, I mean, it goes up to 73, then I guess I'd still be okay, but above 73 would not be any good. Right? On the ES, we need the down close right here. We're running out of time anyway. We are out of time. And we actually just triggered into both of those. So here, we just run these out.
There it is.
Good. There they are. They're both in. So we're going to move to break even on the NQ. I'm going to lock in 4 ticks on the NQ. And 8 ticks on the NQ. All right, we need this to go 4 ticks in profit, and we'll have a trade here. And we're out with 8 on the NQ. And the ES needs to go 4 ticks in profit. I think I'm in the right place. 14, 17, a quarter, 17. Yeah, I'm in the right place on it. Exactly the right place. So we'll let it play out. The Russell could actually give us a trade now too. Let me see if this is always on top. It is now. And the Russell high, oops, can't see it. Russell high is at 66. Now 66.1. Let's be selling 65.1 on that. So we picked up 8 over here on the NQ, and we're waiting on the S to give us something. Nothing on gold. Still no, nothing on gold. And we're waiting for the Russell to give us a potential down close. I know I run over a little bit here, but we'll just let it play out. Let's see
Yeah, I'm in no rush.
Okay. Okay. Remember, tomorrow and the next day, I'm not going to be able to do the afternoon session.
Gotcha.
I'll do the morning session, but I won't be able to do the afternoon session. Almost a trade over here. Not quite. So during the break, because we had to drive to Richmond, we had to get Jada's car registered. So I thought we had to get it inspected. So I took it to 3 different inspection places to find somebody who was there to find out that I don't need to get it inspected until March. So then I went to the DMV to get registered to find out they are closed. At least the one I went to is closed until August 4th. We stopped that on the ES, and we never triggered in on the Russell. It's closed until August 4th. And then I went to get an oil change to find out that there was almost no oil in her new car. And
that don't sound right.
No. So that's what happened during my break. Anyway, she got the car registered now. It's all good to go. Got the oil change added. And I actually took 7 quarts of oil in that car. It's not supposed to hold 7 quarts, I don't think. Anyway, that is it. If you have not taken a free trial with us, go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button. There is no credit card required for the trial. Click on that, go to the registration page, just fill it out. And down here at the bottom, give us your trading view, login ID. Hit the register button, and we'll get you registered and get your indicators indicating on your charts. Okay? That is it. With that, I can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready.
Yep. Recap of the morning session.
Today, it took 4 minutes and 3 trades to get to, I think it was $1,400, wasn't it? $1,400. Yep, 4 minutes and 3 trades to get to $1,400 this morning.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, guys, let's pick up where we left off and get this thing wrapped up. Okay, the NQ still kind of just moving sideways. Now, we took out the high of the session when we hit the long target, and then we backed off and we hit the long target again. And we consolidated at the BBC. We got a leg and a retracement to pull back hill. Leg and a retracement to pull back hill. And then we had another pullback right here that held. This low right here. Sort of an odd spot. Now, if you look way over here, you can see that is where the step line crossed blue and climbing. But you don't really look at that because this red candle has sort of rendered that not a real useful part of market structure. But in this case, see these highs right here? They line right up with that. And they line right up with this bottom. So the NQ is kind of tied in a knot. Again, these are last week's zones. Tomorrow you'll see this week's zones. All the alerts that go out on a Sunday night are based on the previous week zones, because the new zones don't come out till Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Now, we already covered all the indices in granular detail, so if you missed it and you want to watch it later, go to youtube.com/CFRN. This is where we hit the long target. Then we had this big move down. We got through last week's highest weekly trading zone. Then we caught a bounce, and we came back down again. Now we're coming up against resistance times 3. Last week's zone, red and falling, and the black step line. Could price power through it all? On the first attempt to pull back to the BBC, there wasn't enough buying interest to get us all the way back there. So, unless something's changed somewhere and I didn't get notified. See this low here, this little shelf right here. But again, that was sort of a non-issue because of this candle here, but as you can see, it's still there. Market structure. So we got support at the low of the last 30-minute candle. Got resistance overhead at the zone, red and falling, and the step line. On the Dow, we hit the long target, and then we came down and we hit the short target, bounced up to the BBC, came down, hit the short target again. Whenever the market finds support, and this was all based off this bullish cross right here. That's when the blue line gets above the green line. When you have a bullish cross that leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits that area will almost always be good support, as it was there and as it was on the last 30-minute candle. The NQ, or the Russell, hit the long target, we hit the short target. It just kind of been bouncing. Now we put in a slightly higher low here. I don't know how meaningful that is. We just have to wait and see. You have potential support here. And again, right here, where red turned to blue, 22.61. And then price should drop to 22.58. Okay. Now, 22.58. That's the low of this candle, and the zone is 57.58, so that should be support anyway. All right, and we just talked about the NQ. It's not doing much of anything. Pretty quiet. Keep in mind, Wednesday we have the Fed announcement, plus we have 2 of the tech behemoths reporting, and then so Wednesday's going to be a really big day. Fed announcement, and I went over them earlier. Let me go to my earningshub.com page. So on Wednesday, will it take me down to Wednesday? Yeah. After the close Wednesday, first we're going to get the Fed announcement and the Fed press conference. And then at 5 minutes after the stock market closes Wednesday, we're going to get earnings from Microsoft and from Meta. They're both coming out at the same time. Now, the final hour of futures trading from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern is usually pretty quiet. I'm going to guess Wednesday it will not be quiet. And then on Thursday, MasterCard reports before the open, along with a bunch of other stuff. After the close, though, on Thursday, we have Amazon and Apple and Coinbase and Mr., which is strategy. But the symbol's MSTR, so we call it Mr. So Wednesday and Thursday afternoons going to be some busy days. A lot of volatility, so be careful. Crude oil, this is where we opened last night. And the vertical line separates today Back here's Friday. If we go back further, it's Thursday. Pulled up to the BBC and the zone from last week. And we just consolidated. And we hit the zone again. Remember, when price moves up to a zone, we expect resistance till proven otherwise. When price drops to a zone, we expect support till proven otherwise. So on Friday, we had resistance here at the zone. We had support at the zone, and then we had support at the next zone down. So when we bounced last night, hit the zone to the tick, made a leg, a retracement, and a leg that took us back to the zone. And we spiked above it. And this high right here. That's these two highs, this little double top right here. Sent us back to the BBC, the pullback held. Even though we spiked it, pullback held. Leg, retracement, leg, retracement. And then we ripped, well, in real time, we may not have ripped right through it. On a 30-minute candle, it looks like we did. But a lot happens inside a 30-minute candle. And then we found resistance for the session up at last week's zone, $66.95/$67. So leg, retracement, leg right to the zone to the tick. And these are the zones that were published a week ago, Monday, not today. Tomorrow on my chart, you'll see this week's zones. These are the zones that were published a week ago. Now we have gotten ourselves below blue and climbing, and it has turned to red and falling. So we got potential support here at 66.25, and we got potential resistance up at 66.65. Now the pullback holds more often than not. But when you have a lot of red and falling chasing price, just like down here, you had a lot of blue and climbing chasing price. It pretty much held until it didn't. And we popped up, came right back to it. Price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. We call it the BBC, stands for bull bear cross. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish, expecting lower prices. When price crosses above the green line, we're bullish, expecting higher prices. So we're sitting on top of support at this zone, which is where this candle closed, right on the zone. Now, as we consolidate sideways, what will happen is the BBC will rise to meet price. And that's a different dynamic than when price drops to the BBC or pulls up to the BBC. Gold, gap lower open last night. And then we made a run up to the BBC. We poked above it. We hit the zone from last week, 33.41/42. And that was the high of the session so far. And then on the 9:30 open, we dropped all the way down to the short target. That candle opened at these highs by that wick. Now the step line has crossed red and falling. So we should, and red and falling is directly below price, which means it's probably on its way to becoming blue and climbing. So after a little more consolidation, we should see a move up, at least to the BBC. We may come back down and test this area again first. But you got support here, resistance here. Silver. This was the open last night. It was 6:20 last night when the CTAs were published. Most nights they come out 5 minutes before the open. But I suspected there would be some big gaps last night, so I just held off, and I'm glad I did. So price runs up to the BBC, the pullback holds, and it 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 holds. And then that eventually sends us down to the short target and the zone below, 3811/3812 from last week. That bounced us back up to this high right here. See that double top? Now price has traded through blue and climbing, which means blue and climbing is probably going to roll over and turn into red and falling. And I suspect we're going to revisit this short target. And I think that might put in a bottom for the week on silver. Guess we'll know tomorrow. And then Wednesday and Thursday are just going to be wild days. Wednesday, the action starts at 2. And Thursday, the big excitement's after the bell. I'm not sure what news we have Thursday morning, but be sure to check your econ calendar. I use investing.com. There's many of them out there. The My Trading IQ chart has some econ reports. But if you want a more in-depth look, the one I've used over the years, because it's very detailed, not just the U.S. stuff, but everything happening around the world, which does have an impact on U.S. markets. So basically, looking at the daily, we're at the low of the day, but not really. I said a lot happens inside of a 30-minute candle. A whole lot happens inside of a daily candle. All of this happened in this. It looks like the market opened and just dropped. But we know that's not the case because this was the close on Friday right here at the top of this candle. We opened up here. The new all-time historic high is 64.5775, but I'd be very surprised if we close up there. We got support ×2 right here, and then support here, and then potential support right here. And the BBC pretty much lines up with this low right here. The most meaningful thing will be to see price get below the step line and get below blue and climbing. And I don't know that that'll happen today. Might come down and touch it. Now, if we were to close where we are, right here, right now, that would be the dark cloud cover pattern that Michael spoke about last week. If we end up closing below Friday's low is 64.01. And what are we at now? $64.21, $64.20, 21. Yeah, right below last week's weekly trading zone. So that may be good resistance. But if we were to close below Friday's low, that would be a bearish engulfing candle. And that is, right now, it would be, if it closed right here, that would be dark cloud cover. But if it closed below the low of Friday, that would be a bearish engulfing candle. And that's one of the most bearish signals out there. There's over 200 different candlestick signals, but a lot of them are really obscure. You might see them a few times in your life. But there's 10 that you see almost every day. Google CFRN, The Secret Life of Candles. There's a PDF that you can print out or download. And you should learn those 10 basic candlestick signals. Now, candlestick signals are not the latest thing to come down the pike. They've been around about 400 years. They were created by the Japanese rice traders. And it's uncanny in their ability to give you a heads up on what to look for next. To become a member, send an email to support@cfrn.net. All you got to say is, I want to become a member. Valerie will send you an email that explains what it means to become a member, and she'll provide you with a link to click so that you can become a member. 2 hours of live training every trading day in our live training room. It's an interactive environment. Along with 2 hours of live training every trading day, you get private one-on-one mentoring. Strategy you learn, the indicators you own are fluid across all markets and all time frames. Stocks, futures, crypto, Forex, ETFs, price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. As a passport holder, you get the Logic 247 alerts around the clock. You get the concierge trade alerts the second they're published each evening, typically 5 minutes ahead of the open. And if they're not going to be out 5 minutes ahead of the open, I put a note in the discussion group to make sure you're aware. I don't want you sitting waiting for something that's not coming. So last night, I put a note in there that said, I'm not putting them out ahead of the open. Let's let the gaps play out. And so it was 20 minutes after the open when they came out last night, but I suspect today they'll come out 5 minutes before the open. That probably won't be the case Wednesday and Thursday when we have all those big names reporting. Jeff says, I just missed what you said. Oh, Google CFRN, The Secret Life of Candles. And it gives you the 10 major candlestick signals. And if you don't find it, it's been a decade since I published it. So if you don't find it right away on Google, just send a message to Valerie, support@cfrn.net, and she will email you a copy. It's the 10 basic candlestick signals that you'll see every day. Yeah, you're very welcome. And it's published somewhere in one of the Telegram channels, but I'm not sure which channel. Let me try something real quick. Yep. There it is. And Jeff, there it is. Okay, I sent that to everybody. Now I'll also put it in the other, I put it in the question box, but I don't think that's a clickable link for you guys. So let me put it in the chat, and that will create a clickable link. There we go. Should have a little red thing flashing somewhere. Your interface looks different than mine. So there it is. Okay. Now, where to leave off? Concierge trade alerts, you'll get them the second they're published each evening. Every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, you get the weekly trading zones. Once they're published, they're carved in stone the entire week. Thursday afternoon, you'll get an invitation to attend the members only workshop Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And last but not least, you get the golden key that opens all the private channels in Telegram. We've got public channels for the people on the trial, and we have a lot of members only channels. But once you become a passport holder, you'll have access to everything. Everything a trader needs, all under one roof. One low price. It's a good deal. I checked. All right, let's wrap it up with our good word for the day. The need for community. Ephesians 3:17, being rooted and established in love. Unfortunately, the word fellowship has come to be associated with awkward gatherings in church basements, drinking red punch. In the Navy, we called it bug juice, and participating in stilted conversations. No wonder people give up on it. Paul describes community or connectedness as being rooted and established in love. When a tree puts roots into the ground, it takes in nutrients and water, and the tree grows and has life, but only if it's rooted. In the same way, we're rooted, and our souls are nourished in the love of God and other people. We experience this physically and emotionally when we connect with somebody. When there is an exchange of genuine caring, the roots of your soul get fed. We flourish when we're connected with God and people, and we languish when we're disconnected. Emotionally isolated people are more prone to depression, anxiety, loneliness, low self-esteem, substance abuse, sexual addiction, and difficulty eating and sleeping. One behavioral expert writes, connection not only helps make us who we are, it helps determine who we become as individuals. In both cases, human connections, mental health, psychological health, and emotional well-being are inextricably linked. Even animals that are isolated experience more intensive arterial sclerosis. One author writes, a friend of mine used to have a dog and a cat that fought for 10 years. Then the cat died, and the dog wouldn't eat. 6 weeks later, he died. That's just a small illustration of the power of connection. This doesn't mean you have to force yourself to become an extrovert. Some of the shyest people have the deepest friendships because they identify life-giving relationships. Plug into them, thrive, and give back. That's what God designed you to do. There's another study done on mice. If they isolated a mouse and, he's got his little food bowl and his little water bowl, and then he had a little dispenser with cocaine. And then they took a community of mice. And of course, they all had the same three things available to them. The mice who were living in community had an almost non-existent level of addiction to the cocaine because they were in fellowship, they were in community with one another. But in every case, the isolated mouse became addicted to the point of death. If you know someone who's isolated, now, in our devotional for the last 4 days, we've been talking about solitude. Okay, solitude and isolation are two completely different things. If you know someone who has shut themselves off from the world for whatever reason, you need to talk to them. You need to pull them out of what's become their comfort zone. And you may have to walk through a maze of newspapers to get to the back of their house to find wherever it is they're sitting. Because there's probably only a few places left you can actually sit, but you're afraid to sit because you don't want to get bugs. If you know somebody like that in your life, I believe it's not only the right thing to do, I believe it's God's call on your life to do whatever you can to help that individual. Now, hopefully the situation hasn't gone so far that they've become, the pack rat, like on that TV show. But get them involved in life. They chances are, one, they're alone. Their spouse is gone, or they never had a spouse. They never had any children. Maybe they got a brother or sister that, comes and visits them a time or two a year. But other than that, and they might have a few friends down at the bar. But we all know those are only friends until you run out of money to buy a round for everybody. And then those friendships fail pretty quick. So I'm just telling you now, think about the people in your life. And perhaps you see someone who maybe hasn't got to that point yet, but you can see that they're heading in that direction. It's probably a lot easier to grab a hold of them and get them back on the right track than to wait until they've reached that point of utter desperation. Literally losing the will to live. So do what you can. Okay? It's really important. And that's our good word for today. We learned about mice and cocaine and loneliness and living in community. It's a great show. Thanks for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.